That really helps when you unmute yourself. Good evening and welcome to Girl Talk After Dark. I am your host, Sandy Best Life Jones. Happy Friday, y'all. Anybody else really glad it's Friday? Am I the only one who's like seriously glad it's Friday? I can't be the only one. Matter of fact, I woke up this morning. Let me say this first. Welcome to Girl Talk After Dark. I am your host, Sandy Best Life Jones, and I am here to help women all over the world discover the purpose and the plan for their lives through honoring God, honoring their body, and owning their worth. We are a faith-based platform, but all who come in peace are welcome. Now, let me get back to what I was saying. I woke up this morning and I was not feeling well. And so, I did what any other responsible adult would do. I turned off my alarm and I went back to sleep. I just felt like I needed some sleep. I could not do it today. So I did not go to work today. Today was a self-care day and I really needed it. So I just, did some stretching, did some praying, did some singing, did some tidying up around the house, the things that I do to make me feel a little bit better. And I must say that I feel much better tonight. And I'm tickled pink to see all of you, but I'm especially delighted to have my special guest on tonight. She is such a sweet friend of mine. And we only know each other through Facebook, but we've had some really great conversations in Facebook Messenger. I'm telling you, our conversations are really good. And I was on her podcast a few years ago. I think it was 2021, so 2 years ago. And I'm going to bring her out in just a minute. She's going to talk about what she does, who she is, and why she does what she does. So she'll be out in just a second. But tonight's show is Girl Talk After Dark, which is a spinoff from Girl Talk Sunday. And I like to use Girl Talk After Dark to talk about current events, things that are happening on social media, stuff that catches my eye that I want to expound on, do a little commentary. You know how I do. And so tonight is no different. Let me just give you some context. I am a huge fan of the show Ready to Love. Comes on OWN Friday nights, and I watch it. I don't usually watch it live. I usually go back and watch it later, like I'm going to do tonight. But I like the show because I like to see the dynamic between all of the singles that are coming in and, as they say, looking for love. So it's usually 9 men and 9 women, and they don't normally know each other. And so they're just coming in and trying to make a match. And it's a really fascinating show. I like to see what happens. The dance that you do as you're out there trying to date and figure out if you're ready to love. And so there was this one particular couple on the show. I think it was, I want to say 2 seasons ago. It might have been 1, but I think it was 2. And their names are Symone and Rashid. And after the show, they actually developed and were in a relationship, so much so that they got engaged. And I've been following them ever since they left the show because it's not really very often that you see an actual couple develop from the show. But they did. They became a couple. They got engaged and they were planning their wedding. And some things transpired while they were planning their wedding. And it's no secret. It's public knowledge. They acknowledged what was going on, and they did it on social media. They both have their own platforms, and then they went on other shows and other podcasts and were talking about what was going on because they were trying to work things out. And, they tried that for a while and it didn't work. And ultimately they ended up calling off their wedding and they broke up. Well, I watched an interview that they did with Latarius. His podcast is called Dear Future Wifey. I love his podcast. Latarius Whitfield is his name. And I watched the interview that he did with them. And there were some very, very interesting things that came out of that interview. And when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, I want to talk about this on Girl Talk After Dark, but I want to talk about it with somebody who's a really, really good conversationalist. And my guest popped into my head. So I reached out to her on Facebook, and I asked her, I said, have you seen the interview, Dear Future Wifey? Have you seen the interview with Symone and Rashid from Ready to Love? She hadn't seen it yet. She watched it. She messaged me back. She was like, oh, yeah, we got to talk about it. Because we both had a different take on it. But let me bring her out so we can talk about it. Okay, I'm bringing out my guest. She's so dear to me. I think you're going to love her too. Angel Deal is coming out.
You are too much. You are too much. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you for such an not the introduction to me, but thank you for getting it all hyped, because I was sitting over here drinking some tea, like literally drinking tea. I guess we're gonna split the tea tonight. But anyways, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Best Life. Thank you for having me on Best Life TV. And wait a minute though, I gotta call you out, because you have minimized us to just knowing each other on Facebook. Do you not remember that hold on, y'all. I'm not the producer. I'm not the producer, but I'm a step into executive producer role just right. So first of all, we do not just know each other by way of Facebook.
You're right.
So Sandy has this amazing line of product called Lovely Grace. And that's actually how I initially encountered her, because I had a little dab of somebody else's product. And I was like, who this? Who this? Who made this? So I reached out to her, and if y'all get any special eclectic whatever when she blows up and her product is in Target or whatever, or whatever store she's in, I just want to take a little bit of credit for inspiring some creativity, because let me tell you, I worked her when I first asked her for stuff. I was like, can you mix grapefruit with like peppermint or eucalyptus? Like, I was coming up with all these, and she was like, and she was so nice, y'all. She was like, she would text me and say, okay, well, that's different. We'll try it.
You made me put on my chemist hat.
So then she started putting stuff together and, sending it to me. Okay, so fast forward. So first of all, let's clarify, we know each other far greater than.
Yes, we do. I don't even know how I forgot that, because you were one of my first customers. Literally, you were one of my first.
Do not forget about me when you become publicly traded, okay?
I won't now. And this is what I loved about you, Angel, because you would come up with these different blends. Like Angel wanted cactus juice and
nopalito. Yes.
Made me research, because some things can't be mixed together.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to research to make sure that what I was mixing together wasn't going to break you out. Mm-hmm. So yes, you're right. You had me on my toes, and you were one of my very first Lovely Grace skincare customers. You and Michelle and Queena. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think that's whose stuff I got into. It was Queena.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. You're right.
Yes.
I stand corrected. I have seen you face to face.
All right. All right. I just want to make sure. I'm gonna make sure. Give me my street credibility.
I know that's right. Duly noted. So, all right, Angel, I want to know who you are. I want to know what you do, and I want to know why you do it before we get into this conversation, because your resume is off the chain.
Is it really?
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh my gosh. Okay, am I supposed to say something like really churchy right now, like to God be the glory?
If you want to, girl, we faith-based.
Do I say like praise the Lord?
Okay. We always ready to talk about it.
Okay, let me stop cutting up. No, again, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I really was excited when Sandy reached out to me, and I had not watched that particular episode. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, but not to get too far, because we could digress really easy. But my name is Angel Deal, and I'm actually Angel the Real Deal. So long before people came up with that slogan. Let me tell you a quick little story. I was at a restaurant. This was in Washington, as a matter of fact. And someone came and sat next to me. I was sitting at the bar waiting for some food. And so somebody came and sat next to me, and, who knows what they really were after. But anyway, small talk. I said my name and they were like, oh, like Real Deal Holyfield. I said, no. This is like, I'm not capitalizing on any slogan. That's really my name. And, now, of course, I would never flash my ID, to some stranger that I don't even know. But, I was in my feelings, smelling myself. And I was like, bam, it's my real name. He's like, oh my gosh, that's your real name. Yes. So anyway, I'm Angel, and I am the host of Salt and Light Friday Nights. And so my podcast is extremely eclectic. It is based off of the scripture that God says we are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And so we are placed here to bring out the God flavors in the earth. And maybe sometimes we even have to throw a little salt, because we have to reach people whose hearts are cold and calloused. And so we need to be able to show the love of Christ and the light and illuminate the truth to them, so that they might know him, or that they might inquire of this hope that we have. Why Miss Sandy is so excited tonight. And so, like I said, Salt and Light. And so for short, it's Salty and Lit, and that is LIT, living in truth. So, what else? Yeah. So like, let me see, in 2000, I have a book. Actually I have two books. So I will share with you, Sandy, the pre-order for my second book. But I have, I got a little ebook or whatever.
Little.
I was invited to a women's empowerment event. And so I took the talk that I gave and put it into a short little ebook. And it's a really short lesson for us girlfriends. And it's called You Grow Girl, A Girlfriend's Guide to Stewarding Friendships. And so it's about that ride or die phenomenon that we have for so many of the men in our lives, but do we have it for each other? Right. And so when things go awry, or when life happens, how do we, sometimes we grow apart, but how do we come back together? How do we forgive? And how do we give grace? And sometimes when we get into friendships, there's a risk, but there's also a great reward. So I believe that God brings people together, relationships together, especially women. I have a heart for women in leadership and ministry and the marketplace. And so that's my little book or whatever. And
coming back when that comes out.
So so my book it's out on Amazon. You can get it. It's only like a few dollars. Like,
what's it called?
Don't get the Chick-fil-A nuggets. Don't get the mac and cheese. Skip the fries and get my book, okay?
Girl, I thought that was the name of the book. What's it called?
The name of the book is called You Grow Girl, A Girlfriend's Guide to Stewarding Friendships. Yes. And then my second, it's a devotional. It will launch this fall. And so I'm excited. And it's gone through a couple of revisions, if you will. So, I had to pull back and do something different because we've been going back and forth about what it should be called. But let me just share this with you so we can get on with the show. Okay. It is a 28-day devotional, and it is around not only just discovering purpose, because most of us know what we're called to do, what we should be doing, but we just need that jolt to get started. And so it will kind of push you into the discipline. 28 days of discipline. Every day there's a devotional, there's an action item that you need to do, and a short quote with a little bit of word behind it that just will inspire you to be great and to just jump out there and do whatever it is that God would have you do. Ministry, marketplace, even if it's in your home. So don't discredit or don't take for granted the small things, because small beginnings lead to greater things. So anyways, that's what I do. I also have my business, which is the Consulting Concierge. So I consult small businesses, and actually I do a little bit of B2B work. And I work with some companies. They consider me their trusted advisor and consultant. And so, I have a couple things coming up, but I won't share all of that tonight. But Sandy, I need to have a sidebar meeting with you about one of those projects, because I may need your expertise, my love.
Oh.
So anyways, that's me. Thank you guys for having me tonight. I'm so excited to be a part of the conversation. If you're interested in any of my products, my link tree is here. You can click on that and it will take you to actually a audio sample of the devotional. It will also take you to my book on Amazon. And if you have questions for me, you can ask questions as well. There's a whole lot at that link. So love y'all. And I'm glad to be here. So let's have a good time.
Nice. I'm excited to have you here too, because every time we talk, even if it's just in Messenger, you always give me a different way to look at things because you come from a biblical standpoint, but in a way that's easily digested, if that makes sense. Because it's practical, but it's biblically based too. And that's why I like
that.
You and having conversations with you about, some of the stuff going on with me. Because I know that whatever you share with me is going to be biblically based in a practical way. So it's easily applied, because the word of God unapplied don't mean a whole lot if you ain't applying it. The word does, but your non-application does not.
Well, I think that's a shirt or a tagline or something. Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you here tonight. So let's get to it. All right. So we both watched the interview that Phil did with Symone and Rashid from Ready to Love. And I think we both had, I don't know if we had the same take on it. I think we had a different take. But in the end, we came together. But some things we didn't agree. And so that's why I want to get into it, because I think I was looking at it from the angle of, I didn't feel like Rashid was being allowed to really express himself. And you said, okay, but this is why. This might be why Symone feels the way she feels and why she's communicating her feelings the way she is. So then that made sense to me. So let's talk about it. So we watched the interview.
Right.
And it started out with Lateris having Symone explain why she called off the wedding. And there were a lot of reasons why, but we're not going to go into all of them. The main reason, from Symone's own point of view and from her own mouth, I'm not, just paraphrasing what she's saying. She coined a phrase that I've never heard before. And it might be something that people say all the time, or it might be, a regular thing that people say, but I'd never heard it before. She said Rashid committed financial infidelity. And what she said she meant by that is he was not forthright with her when it came to his personal financial situation. He did not tell her the truth, although he gave him ample opportunities to tell him the truth. He chose not to. And because of that, the planning of the wedding was not equitable. She felt like she was putting in more financially than he was. So she wanted to know, why aren't you contributing to our wedding in the same way I am? Something's off. You're not, we both agreed that we're gonna put this amount of money away every month for the next 12 months so we can have the wedding that we want to have. And I don't feel like you're doing your part. And, he hemmed and hawed a little and, made some promises that he wasn't able to keep. And then she started digging. She found out why he wasn't able to keep his end of the bargain. And so she ended up calling off the wedding, and ultimately they did end their relationship because of what happened while they were planning their wedding.
Yeah.
So when I watched the interview, like I said, I felt like Rashid was not being given the opportunity to express himself. And of course, Lateris let the lady go first. And then he went to Rashid to get his take on what happened. But, and even while I was watching the interview, while Rashid was talking, there was, at one point he had to say to Symone, okay, I'll let you talk, so let me talk. And that's how I felt. I felt like he wasn't being allowed to give his take on what happened. You kind of had a different, you didn't see it that way all the way. What did you think?
Actually, we agree on that, because as you were talking, I was thinking about the dynamic, and I actually had a visual in my mind. And so I was going to just blurt out and say, well, remember, he's the defendant. She's the plaintiff. So, you know.
And Symone is a lawyer.
Symone is an attorney. Correct.
Yes.
So that is her. That is who she is by nature, by vocation. And so she's looking, right. But I do agree that I think there were many times in the conversation where she overpowered the conversation, where she, you know, it was this quest to get my point and all the details and to tell my side and to tell how I feel. And not that there was anything wrong with that, you know, and as you mentioned, when you and I talked about it, it felt like, you know, you had a moment where you were like, girl, shut up. Like, can you just be quiet? Like,
please let him talk.
Like, for real. Yeah. Like, you know, and back in the day, I think, you know, I can remember my grandfather telling my grandmother, you need to be quiet. You talk too much. Don't everybody come for me, okay? Because I said that. But I mean, she did take it. I mean, and I don't want to, let me slow down a little bit. I don't want to discredit or not say that her feelings were not valid. Right. At the same time, it was a relationship. At some point, you were madly in love with this man and ready to spend the rest of your life with him. So why then? I mean, where's the grace? Where is the dignity, right? So when you have a conversation with somebody, you need to leave them with their dignity. You don't make assumptions. Right. Try to always assume innocence. And I know their situation is a little bit different. And don't get so defensive, right? Because I think from her position, which may be where we differed, although I think her feelings were valid and the things that she came across, you know, the points that she was making about Rashad, I think that she feels like she was right. Yeah. And I think she feels like everybody needs to know what happened. Yeah. And so that part I definitely have a problem with, because I think there's a level of, in any relationship where, I mean, they didn't open themselves up to the public. They obviously were on a reality show. They're talking to Lateris. I mean, come on. Right. At the same time, you cannot tell me that you just fell out of love with this man and now you have no respect for him. And I'm not suggesting that she was disrespectful, but she definitely needed to control the narrative and control the conversation. And we'll probably get into that later. We will. That's not what that's about. That has to do with something inside of her that she needs to control the narrative and make sure that everybody knows. Because if I think about all told, one thing that stuck out for me in the conversation is that she said, you felt like my wedding wasn't worth you saving $1,000 a month, and that I was going to have to compromise the wedding that I wanted to just elope. So I was like, well, but ain't that what we do?
Well, let me give a little bit more context. This would have been Rashid's second marriage.
Understood.
First, and he said that too. He said, I wanted to give her the wedding of her dreams because she's never been married. I have, he said. So I wanted to give her the wedding of her dreams. Now, what he neglected to say is, and this is just me talking, my finances are so jacked up that I really can't put $1,000 a month away, but I don't know how to tell her that. So I'm trying to figure out how I can come up with this money, because I know she wants this big wedding that he said
that they would have.
Want a big wedding. He didn't. He did.
But what happens, Sandy, after we have the big wedding? What about the marriage? What about the relationship? What about the life?
Right. I don't think sometimes we don't think about that, especially with the first wedding, the first marriage. I think the focus sometimes, not everybody, but sometimes the focus is more on the wedding than the marriage.
Sure. But so for the sake of the conversation, in this particular example, they went on a reality show. So they, number one, had to go through a background check. They did have a credit check. So she was aware, which is hence why she was able to establish some different things for him and help him get things, erased from his credit report. Now, it's Rashad, right? Rashid. What Rashid did is he actually created some new debt
Right. He did.
in the relationship. So back to that term, which is how we started this, financial infidelity. So we had an agreement, and as you should in a relationship, like one of my things is, in my house, everybody knows where everybody goes. So it ain't none of that. Where you at? Oh, I'm run down to the store. What store? Don't make me put a low jack on your Range Rover.
But see, that's what I mean though, and that's what I asked in one of my posts on Facebook. That's what I asked the question. When we are dating, and Bishop R.C. Blake says this all the time, you need to be dating for data. You need to be figuring out who you are dating, and when you get engaged, you really want to know who are you about to marry. So does that require us to turn into detectives?
I don't know that it requires you to be a detective, but okay, it's about to get real raw. It's about to get real here.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm gonna, because because we kicked off this topic with that couple. I think they checked all the boxes when it comes to the pre stuff, right? Because remember, they did the premarital counseling. They checked. They knew each other's background and credit, etc. Right? So they did all of that. But sometimes even doing all of that is not enough, and it doesn't mean that there are not going to be things that are going to come up. They don't necessarily have to be deal breakers, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be more things, right? Because the reality is you're probably not going to know everything about the person before you get married, and that's just the reality. And besides, you can't.
Uh-oh. You're frozen, Angel. I don't know where you went. Let me see. For some reason, Angel's frozen, so I'm going to keep talking, and she may go out and come back in. If you can hear me, Angel, go out and come back in. We're going to try it again. So, as she was saying, you'll never really truly know who a person is, because there are just some things that a person is not going to reveal to you. But you can use your own discernment to discover some of the foundational things that you need to know about a person when you are dating that person and when you are planning to marry that person. But my question is, do I have to go on a treasure hunt to figure out who you are? Do I have to run a background check? Is that really what I have to do? And I saw on my Facebook page post earlier today, someone said, a person, just because a person doesn't have a criminal background doesn't mean they have good character. So a clean background check doesn't mean that you are a man of character. That's not what that means. And so what do you do? Do you do what Symone did? She's an attorney. She used her resources to dig into Rashid's finances, and she found out some stuff that he did not tell her. Is that what we're doing out here, ladies? That's what we got to do. And I'm talking to the ladies because, this is what my show is about. It's about women, and empowering women, encouraging women, inspiring women, helping women to become their best self by using their noggin. So is that what we have to do now? Can we trust the man in our life to tell us the truth about who they are financially, professionally, personally, emotionally, mentally? Can we trust, or are we going to trust but verify? Do we need to do both? Okay, Angel's back.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm out here. If I told y'all where I was at, y'all wouldn't see me. But I'm out here. Sometimes if the grid go out, it just.
So I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but is dating now, is the dating culture now about trust but verify? Is that just what it is?
Well, I mean, as I was saying, sometimes it's very similar to this couple. We check all the boxes, but you're never going to know everything. And there are things that you're going to find out as you go along in your marriage. And it's designed to be that way because you're supposed to spend a lifetime learning each other. Because I can remember being in a marriage.
I'm listening. I'm sharing the live. Go ahead.
Being in a marriage with someone, and I got married very young. Obviously, that relationship has since then, what do they call it? Dissolved. But in the course of that time, I was probably 5 different women.
Yeah, we talked about this.
So I don't know that you can find out everything. Now, to your comment about collecting data, I absolutely think that you should use the process of getting to know each other as getting information, right? But this is, I don't know that necessarily warrants a complete, background investigation or background check. However, to my comment on your original post, I do think that you should take those measures. And I said in my post, I got receipts on why you should. On why you should. I'm talking about finding out, you dating somebody and you ready to turn the corner and you find out they're a felon.
Uh-oh. I think she went off the grid again. Oh boy. Okay, so what do you do with that? Does it matter how old the felony is? Or is a felon just a plain flat out no? I can't date you. And I definitely can't marry you. I think as a single woman, and any single women out there watching, those are questions you have to ask yourself. You got to be real about this kind of stuff, because it's very easy to get entrapped with someone that, and I'm not saying all men do this, but it's very easy to become entrapped with someone who is trying to make you think their persona is really who they are. So the only person you've met is the representative. You haven't met the real person. And I was thinking about it, and I said to myself, would I have called off the wedding like Symone did if I found out that Rashid's finances were not at all what he told me they were? And when I was thinking about it, I said, I don't think it was really about the finances. I think it was about the fact that he was not honest with her when she gave him so many opportunities to be honest with her. She kept asking him, are you all right? How's your saving coming along? Are we both on track? Do you need help with anything? Is there anything I need to know? Is there anything I can do? She kept asking him, and he didn't tell her the truth. And he said later in the interview, he didn't want to disappoint her. So he felt like it was better to try to figure out how to get this money together for the wedding so she wouldn't know that he was really struggling trying to put this money away so she could have the wedding that she wanted to have and that he wanted to give her. He said in the interview, I couldn't tell her. I needed to figure out a way. And so he did some things that made his financial situation even worse. And if you go and watch the interview, you'll see what I'm talking about. And so she just finally decided to go ahead and do some digging, and she found out what was really going on. And she was devastated. She was hurt. She was angry. She felt betrayed. And I think she was right to feel those ways. I think she, all of that was warranted, and maybe more, because this was the man that she was planning to spend the rest of her life with, the man that she loved, the man that she used her expertise in the law to help build up his credit. She was helping him get some things done financially. And she thought she was doing all of that so that they would be in better financial shape once they got married. And it all backfired because he didn't tell her the truth about what was really going on with him. And I think, yes, Angel's back. Are you
Y'all don't fire me. I switched from my computer to my phone. That
okay?
way, yeah, because I
Okay,
think
good.
that's what's happening.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, Angel. Was it? It didn't seem to me that, and I was saying this while you were trying to get back in. It seemed to me that Symone was more hurt and disappointed about Rashid not telling her the truth than she was about what she found out about his finances. Or was it equal, do you think?
Well, when you use the term infidelity, you're obviously talking about the lie, right? Because you had to, in order for you to, it's a hiding of something. It's a betrayal. So you had to, either you omitted something, or when you did talk about it, you didn't tell the truth about it. So I think it's a combination of both. You know, he did lie. I think he was just negligent because he knew the right thing to do. He didn't do the right thing. So he got the car, he did some other things and didn't tell her. But what I do admire, as we kind of turn the corner, we talked about this as well, is that he was able to identify, wait a minute, I'm about to repeat this cycle that I've had with somebody else, now going into this new relationship. And what I really loved is when he said, you're either going to resent me now or resent me later. And so, that's some grown man stuff right there.
It was. And
It
just
really is.
so the audience knows, he had been married before, and the same type of thing happened with the financial aspects of his marriage in the first marriage, and it was one of the reasons why his marriage didn't work. It wasn't the only reason. It was one of the reasons. And so he finally came to the conclusion that, you know what, I'm about to mess this up again.
Yeah.
And Angel said, he was like, okay, it's better that she resent me now than after we're married and all this stuff comes up, because we probably won't stay married long. So I thought that was brave of him to come out and say, to be that transparent, first of all, on social media, because he went live and he talked about how, I could see myself going back into the same habits that I had in my first marriage that helped to destroy my first marriage. And he was right. She was very, very hurt and very angry with him, and they're not together anymore. So then it begs the question too, should you lay all that on the table? Lay it all out on the table. Credit reports, all of that. When you decide to take your marriage or your relationship to the next level of becoming engaged. Is that what
you should? You should. You should not be afraid, because if you're considering this person as a life partner that you want to spend the rest of your life with in a covenant relationship,
right?
Come on. Now, I could probably say a few things that maybe that may have set that particular relationship that we were talking about, that may have set the trajectory on the wrong path. Because when we are talking about covenant, we aren't talking about shacking up before we have the hardware and the paperwork, right?
Right.
But I do think that you have to disclose, full disclosure. You should share those things, because now you two are becoming one. And so everything that I have belongs to you, and everything that you have belongs to me, because what we have belongs to us. So if I am not forthright about, what my FICO score is, what my credit is, again, I'm saying it doesn't necessarily have to be a deal breaker, but it's like any decision that you make. You want to have as much information as possible so that you can make an informed decision.
Right.
Don't decide for me by omitting, right? So we could talk about how people get entangled, if you will, in relationships, or trespassing when they get involved with people who are not legally single, right? So that's trespassing. Right. So if you don't tell a person, oh, I got a family on the west side of town, I got a couple kids, I'm married, whatever. Now that person doesn't have all the information they need to make an informed decision about whether or not they want to continue with you, because you're presenting yourself as single, but you're really not.
So he basically, like you said, he made the decision for her because he did not come forth and tell her the truth.
But he was scared.
Yeah.
Why was afraid to lose her? But then he manned up and he was like, yeah.
He was. You said he was afraid to lose her? You said he was afraid to lose her?
I think so, but I think he also knew that not telling. I think he realized this was going to be the outcome, but he would rather tell the truth than have her find out, years from now. And so I think that was a very unselfish move, right?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
So we could talk about this in 100 different ways, and not just on what happened between Symone and Rashid, but watching that interview really got me thinking. As someone who's newly single and in the dating world, if I'm questioning whether or not I'm ready to put in all that energy, I probably shouldn't be dating.
Maybe. Maybe.
I feel like, okay, I know it's important. I know the trust factor is 100% the top most important thing in a relationship. If I can't trust you, then we doomed from the start. We ain't gonna make it. We going off the cliff. I can't trust you. So, but the question becomes, how far into dating do I make it known that there are certain things that I need you to share with me, and I need to do the same for you? How far into dating are we doing that? Are we asking those questions?
Well, so first things first, those are questions that you so when you're collecting data, you're really not asking so many questions. You're actually observing and you're collecting information, and that is your data. So it's kind of like, in a business or in data mining, you're looking at what's happening, you're seeing the trends, and you're just taking, we have a saying, just put that in my back pocket, right?
Right.
So you go back and you survey, because here's the thing, especially as a woman, the man, especially in a covenant relationship, in any relationship, he should be defining the relationship. So when he turns the corner and says, something like this, it might not be this, it might not be so sophisticated, or maybe it might be it, but when he makes it clear, so it's just me and you, right? I mean, I'm not talking to nobody. You talking to anybody? And maybe the conversation may be a little bit different. But when the relationship is defined, now you can start to be pointed.
Right.
I think with some more of those questions. I don't think that you just start out the gate just firing off all the questions, because here's the deal. I may go on a date with you, and the first one might be like, but I'm gonna give a brother another chance. But then maybe 2 or 3 dates in, I'm like, yeah, no, this ain't gonna work. So if I have already thrown up on you,
what?
I don't even like you like that. And now all my dreams, all my all my business. It's kind of like, I honestly believe that's one of the reasons, for y'all church folk out there, that's one of the reasons, this is not in the Bible per se, but I think that's one of the reasons guys don't have sex before you get married.
Right.
Because it muddies the water, and then you do that, and then what? Then you be like, I don't even like that. Right. And my Bernadine voice, man, now he calling and texting and stopping by unannounced, and you're like, I don't even like him like that. Right. So people, you can't give it all away, right up in the beginning. Now, Sandy, you and I, we are in a different dating class than most people. So I'm not saying that we're old. I'm not saying that we don't have time, but I'm saying we don't have time. Like,
you're right.
We get to that, back in our 20s, we would say stuff like, so what we doing, Tyrone? What we doing?
We're not doing that now.
But we don't do that now. We don't do that anymore. So in our minds,
we're not asking
we created a timeline. In our minds, we've created a timeline, and we make a decision. Okay, if we're not turning the corner by here, you ain't got to say nothing. You ask nothing. If he don't tell you, you know what? You already a wife. I'm finna make you mine. You single. You need the hardware and the paperwork.
I agree. I'm not asking you what are we.
Right.
I'm not asking that.
No, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't have to.
Mm-mm.
You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to ask that question. But I do think, kind of bringing it full circle, I always believe that it is the man's responsibility. It is his role to define the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely opposed to women proposing to men. Say whatever you want, throw all the tomatoes and the tortillas at me that you want. You're going to need that. You're going to need that for dinner tomorrow. But absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
And I do think that a background check is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like what probably our parents did back in the day. You knew people by their family name.
Right.
So, Uncle Leroy boy, or, the Johnson boys, or the McLean girls, or the Jackson sisters, or the Clark sisters, right? So somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that know if that's good stock or not, right?
Right.
And so that's back in the day. That's how they did. That's how they did that. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, she, you can sit on the porch with them. They can come by and sit a spell. Now, we pay $39.99. We pull the report. We check
all your business.
We go on the public record. Because I promise you, if somebody is not divorced, if you know where they got married, you can find it. It's a public record.
Yeah, it is, and that's what Symone said. She said everything she found was public record,
right?
Public knowledge, so it wasn't hard to find it. But I sympathize with her because they dated for I think 2 years before they got engaged, and for her to find out pretty much at the last minute that he wasn't who he claimed to be or who he portrayed himself to be, the ultimate betrayal to me. One of the ultimate betrayals. It's like, really? I really don't know who you are. That's how I saw it. Like, she was discovering who he was for the first time.
But what if she never found any of that stuff out? What if they went ahead and got married? Then what? Cause you listen, people have married people and didn't find out stuff until after the fact. There will be people who will marry people. Somebody get married tomorrow.
Right.
Somewhere. And they don't know something.
They don't really know everything. I don't know. I think based on Symone's personality and her, just the way she carries herself as a professional woman, I don't think she would have stayed married to him had all of this come out after the wedding. I really don't. Because
and I'm not disagreeing necessarily with that, and I'm not advocating for or against. But everyone has their own conviction about what is a deal breaker and what isn't. This obviously was for her, but I'm sure there are other people who it wasn't. It wouldn't be in their scenario, right? And we always want to say, oh, I'm never going to do this. That's how we talk. We talk in absolutes. I'm never doing this. When I get married, I'm never doing it. Get the neck going.
I would never.
You know what? You hope that you're going to do the right thing, whatever that is in the moment. And that goes with anything where there's a decision when you're at a crossroads. But I think that's kind of the world that we live in now, because if you look at statistics, this has been the numbers for a really long time. 50% of first marriages are breaking up, 67% of second marriages, and then it's like 80-some% of third marriages, right? And now we're finding that younger people are the reason why the rate is going down is because the younger folks are like, what, I'm good.
They are.
So we could argue that maybe less people are getting married. And I don't really know. I don't have any scientific data about why. I probably could take a look at that. Maybe I will. But I think that probably the first thing I think, as you were talking, that comes to mind for a lot of people is, man, she wasted 2 years of her life. But did she?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it was a waste. I think he was deeply in love. And I believe he loved her too.
I think they're still in love.
Yeah, I do.
But that's another thing. You can love somebody and not marry them and not be with them.
And she said that too.
Yeah, sometimes you have to love people from far away, and you have to be courageous enough to say, you know what, you are a beautiful person. You are an amazing person. You don't have to do the it's not you, it's me. You don't even have to lie like that. You can just boldly say that this isn't for me. This isn't going to work for where I'm going, for what I'm doing, for what I'm called to, for whatever that looks like for you. But I think a lot of people, honestly, I commend both of them, him for finally being forthright about all of the other things, and her for saying, I don't know that I can stick around. I don't know if I'm that girl that can watch you or walk with you through your process. And I'm a huge proponent of, now I don't do missionary dating, and I can't deliver you. I can't. You're gonna have to get Jesus for yourself. You got to have your own relationship. But I believe that God brings people together because part of that relationship brings healing. Now, I'm not talking about deep-rooted crazy, like they really need, freedom, inner healing, deliverance, and need some therapy. But when I think about, and not to keep going back to them because they kind of kicked off this topic, again, not advocating for or against, but she made a decision that I don't know how long it's going to take you to turn this corner. And I don't know if I'm that girl, but I since I don't know if I'm that girl, then I'm going to say no. Right. Because indecision is a decision.
Right. And it was also based on the fact that she's in her late 30s. She wants to have children. So she's like, I don't think I want to wait.
Okay, but let me throw another one out there though. Everybody's gonna have something.
True.
Everybody is going to have something, and don't get me wrong. I could hear people say maybe things like, well, I was waiting for so long, because how many people do we all know that because they feel like they've invested so much and so much time, they just can't let go. So again, I really commend her for being able to say, you know what, I'm gonna choose myself and something else. I love you, but what happens if she encounters somebody else, and maybe it isn't financial infidelity, but they withhold some other information, or it's something else? So what are the deal breakers, right?
I was going to say, you got to have your deal breakers. You got to know what those are ahead of time.
What are your absolute no's?
That's right. Yeah. And if it's an absolute no, then let it be an absolute no.
Let it be, yes. Let your no be no and your yes be yes. Come on now. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think we digressed a little bit. We were talking about background checks. I have ran a few background checks on a few brothers. Some of them paid, some of them, Debo now. One thing about us, we gonna find a way. We gonna find out. Yeah. And here's the other thing: if you are dating a woman who is, I'm not talking about a man or a woman that go to church. Okay, let's get that straight. I'm talking about somebody who walks closely with the Lord, has an intimate relationship with Him.
Right.
There's at some point they are going to, and I think especially so for me, I'm gonna talk about me a little bit. So from a kingdom perspective, there's a vetting process. So maybe it's the dating dad or whatever, but I'm really not trying to sit down with you and break bread. There's some other things before I even get to that I'm vetting out. And I'm thinking about and I'm considering, right? So because that initial introduction about, who you are, I don't traditionally lead with, what do you do? Because what if you can't do that tomorrow? Then what?
Right. How much
of that? Doctor today, but
how much of who
one of your patients done died. Now the whole thing done came down. We got to do something else.
And how much of who you are is based on what you do.
Right.
Like you said, but if you can't do that no more, is that
exactly? So I'm trying to look at the person, right? And then for me, in my space of dating, etc., whatever you want to call it, I am so beyond Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want no scrub. I don't want no scrub. I told God a long time ago, listen, I don't want the yard sale romance. I want the fairy tale. Yeah. And I'm not talking about Cinderella. I'm talking about the fairy tale that you have created for me that really isn't a fairy tale, but that is the most beautiful thing that you have designed just for me. It may not be for everybody else, but it's perfect for me. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of how are you going to propel me to destiny? Mm-hmm. When we come together, my life should be enriched. There should be something about my life that increases, right? Because I get to a place where I have really run hard. I've really done, really walking out my calling, whatever that is, my career, what have you. And I'm living life and I'm having a good time and I'm enjoying the fruit of that labor. And so when you come along, there has to be something about you that brings, and I'm not just talking about money, ladies, like hear me now. Right. It's not just about the increase of money, but you need to enrich my life in such a way that it causes me to pause and be like, well, wait a minute. So that the space that I've created for you to come into my life, now I'm like, oh, wait, hold on, unlock that door. Unlock the door.
Right, the window.
Right. So this person has arrived, or potentially this could be the person, right? Right. Because I remember I was sharing this with somebody last night. I remember telling God, I was like, God, I want to be a wife, and I had a very tumultuous, turbulent, let's say it like that, divorce relationship with my no longer husband, and so I remember how I was though, and how I went into that relationship. But I remember asking God after I had gone to therapy and did some other things and some inner healing and stuff like that. I remember saying to him, I said, I want to love like that again. Yeah. And I remember saying, I want to be free and uninhibited, and I don't want to withhold anything. And let me be real honest with y'all. I didn't really know what I was asking. Mm-hmm. Because then it became about, okay, I want to get married. And I was like, okay, God, I need you to show me how to be a wife. And I remember getting on my knees, leaning over the toilet boy, which when I think about that, that's so disgusting. But anyway, and asking God to show me how to be a wife. And he said, you're already a wife. I made you a wife. That is the desire that I put inside of you. You just haven't come into the manifestation of it yet. So I don't need to make you a wife. But what I'm going to do is, through this process, I'm going to cultivate you and I'm going to grow you so that you don't have a bunch of junk over you. Right. That when he shows up, you can identify him. You will know that it's him. Mm-hmm. Right. So that was like the second lesson. But then I was like, for real, Jesus, like, dang. And he was like, Angel, why do you want to get married? Mm-hmm. And I was like, duh, so I can have sex legally. He was like, okay. I was like, but no, for real, God, I want somebody that I can hang out with. I want to travel and go places. And, and he was like, all of that's really nice, but I need to know how any of that brings me glory. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, for real? Like, is that what I was like, is this what we doing? Mm-hmm. But it was so revelatory for me, which takes me back to what I originally said. How does what I'm doing and what you're doing, if we come together, even if it's not exactly the same thing, it's not immediately succinct, but how are you going to propel me forward into my destiny? Are you going to thwart it, or am I going to thrive because of it? Because we always like to throw around as women, when a man finds a wife, we find a good thing. We could exogese and isogese that all night. I don't want to. But neither do I, because we do it inappropriately, right? We take it way out of context, but that's another conversation. Maybe I need to talk about that on Salt and Light. But the reality is we were given a command in Genesis, and we are supposed to increase. So multiply, fill, subdue, and rule. Rule, dominate. So together, that's what we're supposed to do. So somewhere, and when our lives collide, you should be running so hard, doing whatever it is that you're supposed to do, that you run into that not joker, but that your lives should collide at some point. And it doesn't mean it's
I agree with that 100%. I do.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's a collision that's harmful, but it's that, the day at the coffee shop, or you're serving at the food pantry, or whatever it is for you. And maybe it is online dating. Maybe maybe God can use anything to bring you that person. But the point that I'm trying to drive home is, when you are a kingdom person, first of all, you cannot just marry anybody, because whatever it is on your life and that other person's life, you have been sent to increase it, to multiply it.
Yeah.
So your first inclination with somebody, if they are not multiplying you, if they are not increasing you, increasing what it is that and I'm not talking about you being a pastor. I'm not even talking about that. That's a given. But I mean, just if God has called you to nonprofit, if he's called you to the mountain of government, whatever it is that you do, that person, if it's in the simplest way, they should help propel you forward. And together, we should be able to do exploits. So listen, I ain't got time to get you saved.
Right. You know what? Something you said just reminded me of a show that I did with some friends of mine who have been married 29 years this year, and they own a Winds of Liberty health and wellness center. And so they offer mental health and mental health resources and marital counseling, premarital counseling, family counseling. And something that they said really, really resonated with me. And what you said reminded me of it. They said, later on in their marriage, I think they've been married maybe 10, 12 years, they decided together that they wanted to be the couple that would open their home to other couples to help build those relationships, to help cultivate and nurture those relationships. They decided that together. They wanted to be that couple where other couples could come and say, okay, these are my friends that I know we can go to when things are going right, and when we done hit a snag.
Right.
Whatever it is, we're gonna open up our home to other couples so we can have game night, and we're gonna host these different activities, and we're gonna be that couple. They decided that together.
What a blessing.
Yeah. That really resonated with me. I was like, wow, that's something that you decided because you've done the work as a couple, first as individuals, and then as a couple. So you want to be able to foster a space where other couples can come in and do that work with you.
That's a beautiful thing.
I think so too. I thought that was amazing. I've never heard that before, but that really resonated with me.
And I think that is the issue with Rashid and with the couple that we were talking about, is that there is still some work to do. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean that you will have arrived, that you will be perfect, but you need to come with a sense of wholeness. And here's what happens is, if two broken people come together, that doesn't make a whole relationship. It's a whole bunch of broken pieces.
Right.
It's just more brokenness. Right. And so it doesn't mean that people that people have to be perfect, but I think it's really important, before you take this journey, that you do some introspective work, you do some reflection. Now, when you're in your 20s and you get married early, you met John Boy at the baseball game, y'all get married at 19 and y'all been together forever. Then, y'all spend the rest of your life doing all of that together. Right. But now we're seeing more people who are having second and some third marriages, right. Or weddings, if you will. And so marriage ain't for punks. Right. So you have to come as a whole person. You have to come with some sense of security in who you are and your identity. Because what happens if you getting to my point with these two people, is I believe that Rashid is definitely on his journey.
Right.
And possibly when he gets whole, he won't even want her.
Yeah.
She, on the other hand, and this is just an observation. I am not a medical professional. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, y'all. So don't come for me. But I think there's some trauma and there's some other stuff that she has to deal with as a people pleaser, as a performer,
right,
as a fixer, which is people pleasing, needing to be validated in that way. And so there's a possibility that perhaps when she does her work. Because when you're whole, it's like you take the shades off. You
Right.
see things so differently. When you've experienced some healing and you choose differently. See, I went through a season where my pickup was bad. It was real bad. I mean, garbage. Just trash. Just trash.
Oh.
Just trash. Thank God for his mercy.
You know what season I'm in. I'm at first base. I might still be in the dugout, actually. I
You
may
ain't
not
even suited up.
even
You
be. I
suited up?
don't think so. Yeah, I'm teed up, but I ain't on first base. I'm at the pitcher's mound right now. So
That's okay.
but I say this all the time, that I am busy building a life that I love, so that I'm not running away from my singleness, my single season. I'm embracing my single season. That I'm not open to date, it doesn't mean that I'm not open for love. It just means that while I am single, I'm living my life in a way that says to me, single or married, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I had to get here. It took me a while to get here, but I'm finally here. So
Isn't it a beautiful thing?
It really is. I think it's important during your single season that you use your time to build a life that you love, not a life that you're running away from, a life that you want to run to every day because you love your life. I think that's really important. And then when someone comes into your life, that person can see, oh, she booked and busy whether I'm here or not. So, there's just certain things that you already need to have established before you get into a relationship. Some things should just already be established. And like you said, the man that comes along will add to
Absolutely
the goodness of your life.
Yeah, and prayerfully, I mean, I'm that. I believe I'm that girl.
Yeah.
Listen, the whole earth is gonna open up on your behalf when you put this heart. Put that. Go on and send that. Go on and get that. Go on down to Jared's. Go on down there.
Go on down to Jared.
Go on down to Jared's and do the right thing. My Shantae voice.
That's right. I know that's right.
Go on down to Jared. Do the right thing. Get that ring.
Well, we are definitely going to have a part 2 of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I think that this is such a needed conversation. I know a lot of women right now who are wondering. I think they done gave up on Boaz. They just,
Wait. Now, see, you done said a trigger word for me.
Oh no! Is that another discussion?
Can I just say this one thing? Okay. I was gonna say something else, but then you brought up Boaz. So this is the debate in my circle of women, married and single. They always come through with that phrase, and I'm like, y'all, Boaz did.
He did.
One person's like, no, he's not. He was old when he married Ruth.
He was. Now that is
Boaz is dead. And I'm being comical, but my point, the context of me saying that is, and this may not be for everybody, but let me just share the revelation that God gave for me. He was like, I want to bless you with something that is unique and just for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't look at other things, aka a Boaz, and want to mimic or see that as a model for what you want. But I'm gonna challenge y'all to go back and read that scripture and read the whole book and understand why, how, and why they got together and what led up to it and what God's plan was as a result of them coming together. So let me just hit you with one headliner. So if you know the lineage, okay, this is why Salt and Light is like a teaching podcast. We're throwing some salt out here. We illuminate some stuff, get some light. First of all, we know the story of Naomi and Ruth. We know how they ended up where they were, right? So the husband died, which was Ruth's father-in-law. She was married to. They weren't even supposed to go. They weren't supposed to leave when they left, and that's how the boys got hooked up. And they married outside of the culture, which at that time under the law was forbidden. You weren't supposed to do that. But what God needed to do is He needed to correct that thing. Let me just say it like that really quick so I can get to it fast. But you have to remember what happened, the preparation for them and where they were in the space, because the dad was dead, the husbands were dead. So you know there was Orpah, who is the grandmother of Goliath, and Ruth is the grandmother or great grandmother, if you will, of David. So what we miss in that scripture, I don't have time to go into it. What we miss in that scripture, why we miss the kinsman redeemer portion, Ruth was working in the field. And when Boaz purchased the field, somebody else was going to do it. But because he did it, when you purchase the field, you get everything with it, and the people too. Are y'all listening? And the people too. But Naomi, aka Big Mama, Aunt Hattie, whatever she is, Aunt Mabel, and your family was like, listen, girl, I ain't, look, my husband dead, y'all husband dead, but y'all young. Look, you finna get married. Look, there's still time for you. There is an opportunity for us to make this thing right. Now, this is angel talking. I'm not saying necessarily that that's how it happened, but she groomed her and gave her good counsel on how to position herself, ladies, to be in proximity to the man who had already been watching her. And at the appointed time, she slipped in, was whatever. She had, I guess nowadays they call it the soft girl, whatever that is. But anyway, if you got Jesus and Holy Spirit, you should already be moving in such divine, you're in that. I don't want to even use the term energy because I'm not into that woo-woo stuff. But you understand what I'm saying? So I sometimes think we take the whole Boaz thing, we miss the message in there. And I understand not to be so churchy, y'all, and to be super religious. I know what people are saying. They want a man of wealth, of stature, and all of those things. But we always talk about finding a Boaz or getting a Boaz. But baby girl, Molly, are you living like Ruth? Have you prepared yourself? Are you getting good counsel? Have you placed yourself in proximity? I mean, because he's not going to come on a helicopter and land on the roof and ring the doorbell. So there's some stuff that you have to do. And so she also positioned herself. So I think we're so quick to make that story like a Bible fairy tale, like, oh, he saw her in the field. Who is she? Leave a little bit more for her. Give her. Yeah, she absolutely had favor, but that was divine order. And now this is what I want to hit y'all with before we go when it comes to that story or that account in scripture. Ruth was a bloodline breaker. God called her, as he did many others, to break the curse. Because remember, she married into a family. She was of a different culture. She shouldn't have even been in that family. But that is how the grace and the mercy of God works. He's like, look, I got a plan for this earth. I got to get a savior here somehow. The lineage, they had a son. So Boaz and Ruth had a son, Obed, and Obed had David. And David is the lineage of Jesus Christ. So y'all didn't even know that women was breaking curses and being bloodline breakers back in the Old Testament.
We missed it. It went over our head.
So ladies, if I could leave you with anything, when you don't look for Boaz. Ask God to position you. Ask him to show you where to be, how to be. Put it together. Don't give me that none of what he just gonna have to look. He gonna have to. This is how I am. No.
Go do your work.
Get that thing together. Even what you look like. If you need to lose some weight, lose some weight. One cupcake away.
I love that,
Molly.
All right,
girl.
This is so good.
I'm just saying, you have to be ready for what God wants to bring you, because listen, there are strippers out here getting husbands. Don't tell me that God would have you wait and preserve your body and serve him wholeheartedly and surrender your life to him and then give you trash. No, ma'am.
No, sir.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Absolutely not.
Oh, I'm definitely bringing you back to talk about that.
Absolutely.
You are coming to talk about that. Well, thank you, ma'am. This was good. I knew it would be, though. I knew it would be. I can't wait. I already have conversation themes in my mind for when you come back, because that last little part you just did, we need to have a whole conversation on that. So when I bring you back, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how Ruth positioned herself listening to the Holy Spirit, listening to Naomi, her sister, her mother in the spirit, how she positioned herself. That didn't just happen by accident or by happenstance. That was divine positioning on her part. We're going to talk about that when you come back. So thank you.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you for having me. Y'all, please forgive me for the technology woes. I will make sure we don't have those issues the next time. I promise you have my word, but I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
We got exactly what we needed. Thank you, Angel.
All right. I love you. Y'all have a great night.
I'll see you soon. Good night.
Okay. Bye.
Woo! Okay. Another Girl Talk After Dark in the books. Thank you all for joining me tonight. That was a great discussion. That last 10 minutes, we're going to have to do a whole show on the Ruth effect. That's what we're going to call it. Angel will be back. Thank you for joining me tonight. You know I'm always glad to see you. Hi, Kia. Hi, Latrice. Yes, this was great. I love this kind of conversation because I'm like other single women out there who, you know, I am not going to settle for anything less than a kingdom man. Nothing less. I ain't talking about perfection. I'm talking about a man after God's own heart. I am not settling for anything less. So pray for me as I pray for you. And in the meantime, enjoy your life. Live while you live. You live while you live and continue to build a life that you love. Who is that? Oh, hi, Kia. I love you too. Thank you for joining me tonight, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in August for Girl Talk Sunday. I can't tell you who my guest is yet. Watch my Facebook page. Watch my Instagram. You'll find out soon. Thank you. Love you all. Good night.